Hello everyone. Well, as the title states, I have been living in Japan for 8 years as of April 2nd. I'm making this video a little after the anniversary date, but that's just how it goes. I actually was having a little trouble with my computer being slow and I couldn't even record video as the final product looked terrible. But those issues have now been fixed and I can now do video. Anyway, I just wanted to get on here and talk about how things have been going and what's been going on, especially as of late. So, let's get into it. 2019 was actually a very good year for me. One big highlight was last October I got to make a trip home. It was already feeling like winter at that time, and in fact I was underprepared for that. I actually had to go buy some warm clothing at a store locally, but thankfully that was easy enough. It was strange going home as that it actually feels more like the foreign country, even though Japan is actually the foreign country. But it was good to see some people, and I definitely appreciated the vacation. Other highlights included some mini trips I got to make around Japan. Nothing too major, but it was just nice to see some new places. Some of the places I went to were Gifu Castle, which is a very, very nice mountain setting. Legoland, which some of my friends wanted to go, so that's why we went, but here's a photo of me with the Lego Anubis. And actually a Peanuts exhibition at a museum, which turned out to be surprisingly popular. I really wouldn't have thought it would be that big here in Japan, but it was actually packed in there. One thing with that is you can get popcorn for 800 yen. I did not buy that though. So those were the main trips I made last year. Next, I want to talk a little bit about work. For my job, I've been tasked with more programming work than before. When I started, I was only doing HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and some PHP here and there. The work is fine, although a lot of the company stuff is running on old technology. Sadly, there really isn't a whole lot of choice in the matter but to just use it and make do. But I do wish I could do more with some of the newer technologies that are out there. Recently, there was some talk about using Angular for one of our projects. I did look into it, and it is certainly different. There will definitely be a steep learning curve as there's so much different syntax to learn. Although I think even more so than the programming aspects is just developing a better workflow. A lot of these newer techs tend to use a whole lot of files and you have to keep things organized. You're constantly switching files for different functions. I followed along with some of the tutorials and it took a lot to get the basic project up and running, but I did get it to work. I'm kind of concerned that if I don't learn some more of this stuff now that I might get left behind, although honestly I do kind of feel behind at this point. But if there is an opportunity to utilize more of this stuff, then I will definitely do what I can to get up to speed. Other things that happened towards the end of the year were me having to renew my passport, which I did a video on, as well as my work visa, which I also did a video on. And given the current state of things, I'd say the timing on both of those was very, very fortunate, especially the passport. I heard that all American embassies and consulates are in fact closed until further notice. Maybe they'd allow U.S. citizens to come in and take care of those matters, I don't know. But since I already took care of them, I don't have to deal with any of that, and I am very, very happy. And I suppose that leads us into current matters. Yeah, I'm pretty sure from this you can tell what I'm going to talk about. Despite the fact that Japan was a mask country long before all of this, I personally never used one of these until this year. Thankfully, this one is mostly comfortable and stays on unlike other ones that I have tried. One benefit is that if I'm outside, it actually does keep my nose and mouth warm, so at least there's that. I do find though that if I wear it for maybe an hour or so, it starts to make my ear hurt a little bit. This particular one is called a greened mask, or maybe it's pronounced green D. I was lucky to have gotten some of these. They are also reusable. I do actually have my own method of sanitizing them. After using around 4 to 5 of them, I actually put them in boiling water for about 5 minutes. I have to use tongs to keep them under the water. Afterwards, I dump the water and use a little soap, rinse them out, and let them dry. I think I can take this off now. So, Now I'll talk a little bit about how I and some parts of the country have been affected. Due to the outbreak, I was actually given a choice back on April the 8th of either coming in and working as usual or taking the month off. I elected for the latter option. I will still get a salary, but it'll be reduced. This was actually offered to me, which was good timing, as I was going to bring up the issue myself had they not said anything. And to be honest, actually wasn't expecting them to offer anything like this, but they did, so good on them. I wanted to propose just doing some work at home on my own computer and continue, but they actually declined that, and honestly, I don't get it. It's the same work regardless of what computer it's done on and where it's done. The only thing that I really wouldn't be doing is being in the office and answering an occasional phone call, but 95% of the time the calls aren't even for me anyway, so it really doesn't matter. But anyway. A lot of operations, especially in Tokyo, have also been hampered. Around town, I've also seen some changes. I took some photos and I'll put subtitles on the bottom for the relevant Japanese text. Some places, like this one, are just outright closed for an extended period of time. Some places have reduced business hours. This one's only open 3 hours a day. Going back to the mask topic, a lot of drugstores have had issues. This store even posted a sign asking people not to line up outside before the store opens as they don't have any stock whatsoever. And I actually saw people doing this as much as 2 months ago. I did take a photo of one case, although it was from across the street, so it might be a little blurry here. This was about 10 to 15 minutes before the store opened. And speaking of low stock, it's not just masks and hand sanitizer, but this store's stock of ramen was dwindling when I took the photo. The Tokyo Olympics this year have also been postponed. I remember seeing posters for those maybe as early as 3 to 4 years ago and was wondering what things would be like in 2020. I remember talking to someone and she said that the Olympics would make up about 1 to 2% of Japan's GDP. I don't know how accurate that number is, but regardless, I keep hearing that canceling them is just not an option. Talk from government officials say that it's not an option, but I guess we'll wait and see. A few nights ago, I was in a call with some people who have also been affected. Some of them will try working at home, some of them will have time off, like me, and some of them will continue as usual. There's really no uniformity at this time. At the time I was writing notes for this video, the Prime Minister had issued a state of emergency for 7 of the 47 prefectures in the country. That actually has since changed to be the entire country. When it was first issued, there were actually some of the prefectural governors expressing concerns about not being included, but now that it's nationwide, everybody is covered. The government is basically asking people to stay home and avoid non-essential matters. Unlike what I've been hearing about the US, it's far more lenient, however. For example, if the police see you outside, they can't stop you and force you to go home or anything like that. Yeah, I've even heard in the US that some of the cities have drones flying around overhead looking for non-compliant individuals. It's crazy. But as things unfold, I'm sure I'll find out more. I typically check around on the Japan Times website for news, as their site has things in English, which is convenient. Other news organizations probably have more detailed information, although it's all in Japanese, which I can read, but my reading level isn't really high enough, so it would take a very long time for me to read through a lot of those articles. But anyway, so that's the basic situation here. The next issue is what to do with my time off. For the first few days, I got some stuff done around here that I'm typically lazy about. I'm sure there's more of it I can do and will do. I got to play through Bloodstained and get my Castlevania fix. I beat the game last week, in fact. Not 100% by any means, but I finished it. I have a few other titles that I'd like to play through, and I guess now that I have the chance, I will, but I don't want it to just be 3 months of games and TV. Earlier on, I mentioned some of the new technologies for web development. I may look into some of those again and see if I can do some minor projects to just get better accustomed to them. One other thing that happened last year, the day I actually got back to Japan from my American trip actually, was my website was taken down. It was hosted on Nintendo Age, but their site was taken over, and as such, I haven't actually had a website for the past 6 months or so. I'd like to make up a new one. The only problem is hosting. I honestly don't know where or who to go for that in this day and age. The admin at Nintendo Age was really nice and let me be on their space for free. And it was on there for, quite a long time actually. At least 10 years. But anyway, if I do get a site together, it doesn't need to be anything big or grand. I would just like a place where someone could go and get some info on my projects if they were interested. I also have an old laptop that I used until around 2016 when I upgraded to my current system. I actually got it out of storage to see how it was, but apparently these devices can go bad in long-term storage. The screen doesn't work. All the displays are white pixels and a big black spot in the bottom left-hand corner. The hard drive also seems to have failed since it isn't even recognized at boot up. I was kind of hoping to maybe install Linux on it, as I've been curious about trying it out on a real system. I have used it on virtual machines a few times, but the experience wasn't really smooth and I stopped trying a while ago. I've been looking to see if I can refurbish the computer though. The bad hard drive I can easily replace. All I need to do is just open the computer and take it out and get a replacement 2.5-inch drive to put in there. But the big thing is the screen. It almost looks like you have to take out nearly all the components just to even gain access to the screen. And there are so many tiny screws inside that computer. On top of that, finding a compatible screen would be a huge hassle. If I knew 100% that any parts I got would work, I would actually try doing this, but I'm just worried about something not working. One thing that is possible, however, is the laptop allows for changing video output to an external source. So if I had a monitor or even a TV, I could use that. And if it looks too difficult, I'll just get the hard drive and try on the external screen for a while. It won't be optimal, but at least I can experiment. We'll see. I mean, the computer's pretty much dead anyway, so I can do what I want with it. Lastly, I'd like to get some other video content together, as I've been pretty lax on that front. I mentioned in a previous video that I actually have a Battle Kid 1 Famicom version playthrough made up, but I just need to put in an intro and some closing remarks. It's the closing remarks that I just need to think about, and then once they're done, put them in the video, put the intro, and then combine them together into one video and upload it. But hopefully I can get that finished soon enough. So that pretty much sums things up. April and May are looking to be some pretty slow months in terms of socializing, but I'll do what I can to make the most of the situation. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Stay safe and thanks for watching.